So help me flesh out some of these contradictions. I think that on the whole, it's really good that we have National Whistleblower Appreciation Day. And I would say overall that I'm glad that there's someone like Senator Chuck Grassley who has pushed forward and stood up for at least the modest whistleblower protections that we've been able to win. Both Chuck Grassley and Ron Wyden have been two of the only senators who stand up on whistleblower issues in the past 10 years. They're one of the only two or three senators you can point to who have challenged the way an insider threat program has been rolled out and instituted in the FBI and other intelligence agencies. That being said, the resolution for establishing Whistleblower Appreciation Day is incredible to me because it contains so many caveats. I'd like to just take a moment to read it to you so you can see um, the resolution they passed for this year, this particular year, from Chuck Grassley. What he decided needed to be in here was this very clear cut statement. It'll resonate with you because he's excluding you from
Yeah.
Whistleblower Appreciation Day. It says in the resolution, whereas it is the public policy of the United States to encourage, in accordance with federal law and consistent with the protection of classified information, including sources and methods of detection of classified information, honest and good faith reporting of misconduct, fraud, misdemeanors, and other crimes to the appropriate authority at the earliest time possible. Now, therefore, be it. And then it goes on to outline what they're doing. But as I'm pointing out there are these disqualifiers for whistleblowers.
Yeah, there always are. Chuck Grassley is probably the best friend that whistleblowers have on Capitol Hill, and that's not saying a lot. He's certainly not my friend. Chuck Grassley's not done anything for me. A couple members of Congress had. My own congressman at the time, Jim Moran, Lloyd Doggett of Texas, Senator John McCain. They were all great, and I appreciated the help very much. Chuck Grassley was not a help. And Chuck Grassley speaks at the National Whistleblower Day luncheon every single year. Oftentimes, another congressman will stop by and wave and, bask in his applause. But this year, the speaker is Michael Horowitz, who's the Justice Department's Inspector General. I wrote a piece in Consortium News a couple of days ago in which I said that I was boycotting the event this year because it's Horowitz, and Horowitz, in my view, is a fraud. I have a friend, an FBI whistleblower named Darren Jones, and Darren Jones has gone through a nightmare for the past 8 years plus, thanks in large part to Michael Horowitz. And I don't think we should be honoring the man. I think we should be criticizing him and demanding that he respect whistleblower rights, which he doesn't.
And the other thing that I want to add here to this broadcast before we get on to celebrating individual whistleblowers is that I'll never forget that Chelsea Manning was convicted on National Whistleblower Day. That she was, that on the same day that we were celebrating, there's this case that involves a soldier who stood up to torture, I believe is the actual case that sparks that if you read Chuck Grassley's establishment of the National Whistleblower Appreciation Day, it goes back to the time period of the Revolutionary War. So that's the case. And on the same day, on July 30th, that's the day that the U.S. military court at Fort Meade found Chelsea Manning guilty of violating the Espionage Act, which I think just brings out one of the more glaring contradictions. And I think, to you, I say, what are your thoughts about how there really aren't any, and I think to flip this around, it's really on us to do something to agitate and try to win more protections, but there's no mechanism for people like you to blow the whistle on war and war crimes and malfeasance in war zones. And it's so easy to be found and labeled a traitor because there's not very good channels set up for anybody who wants to expose that kind of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Right. Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri called me a traitor. And he wasn't the only one who called me a traitor. But you're exactly right, and you point out exactly what the problem is. The problem is that the whistleblower protection law says that you have to report malfeasance, that is, waste, fraud, abuse, illegality, or threats to the public health or public safety through channels. And through channels means to your boss, to the inspector general, maybe to the general counsel, finally to the oversight committees. That doesn't work. Tom Drake, the NSA whistleblower, went through channels, went to the oversight committees, went to the inspectors general, and was rewarded with 9 felony counts, including 7 counts of espionage. Now, the case fell apart, but not before he was ruined financially and personally. If you work in the intelligence community, if you work in the military, you can't go through channels because it's your channels that are violating the law. It's the oversight committees who are complicit in it. For example, I wanted to blow the whistle on the torture program. I worked in the CIA's counterterrorism center. My bosses created the torture program. The inspector general ignored the torture program. The general counsel legally approved the torture program. And the oversight committees secretly funded the torture program. So the only place for me to go was to the media. And that's true of many, most maybe, national security whistleblowers. Of course, when you go to the media, you take your future in your hands because you're probably looking at an espionage charge or multiple espionage charges, even though that's not espionage. That's what the Obama administration did. They set a precedent by charging people with espionage for speaking with the media. So it's very dangerous. With some regularity, I get calls from people who are considering becoming whistleblowers. And I always tell them, think long and hard before you make this decision because your friends are going to walk away from you. Your coworkers will never speak to you again. In many cases, it'll split your family. It may wreck your marriage. You'll never, ever work in government again. You'll probably never work in corporate America either because of the background investigation necessary. So you have to really believe in your heart that you are doing the right thing. It's the right thing for you. It's the right thing for the country. It's in defense of the Constitution, and then act. And the other thing that I always tell them is don't make the mistake that I made and be reactive. Be proactive and engage an attorney who specializes in whistleblower defense before you go public. Then at least you can partially control the narrative.